Today, the spotlight is on Edo State. A significant day for the people of Edo State as they cast their ballot to elect who would govern them for the next 4 years. Voting done and dusted. Results are being collated as the people eagerly await the announcement of results from the different wards. Although the Independent National Electoral Commission extended voting time in areas where there was late opening of polls as a result of late arrival of election materials. However, some stakeholders have described the Edo election as peaceful, despite some glitches also observed. Before the elections, if you recall, President Bola Tinubu called on political stakeholders to maintain peaceful and democratic integrity during the polls, respect for the rule of law, and allow the people's choice to prevail. Well, as the people of Edo keep watch through the night to get the final result, indeed, the stakes are high as political parties, party agents, and of course, the electorate are being urged to remain calm until the process is fully completed. A fair, credible, and transparent process is what they anticipate. From the security agencies, INEC, and election observers, they've all expressed their concerns on the outcome of today's election. Tonight, on Weekend File, we'll take a look at the Edo State governorship election matters arising. Our guests are Mr. Nick Dazang, former Director of Voter Education and Publicity, INEC, and Mr. Ezenwa Nwagu, Chairman, Partners for Electoral Reform. Well, he will be joining us via Zoom from Benin. We'll bring you situation reports, of course, on the election from Edo State as filed in by our correspondents. Thank you very much for joining us on Weekend File. I'm Ruth Aguele. First, let's begin with the news. Well, reports reaching us says the Edo State governorship election has moved from the field to the collation stage with political party agents, CSOs, and of course the media converging at the State Collation Center to witness the process. We join our correspondent now, Jude Abugo, who is standing live now from the Collation Center there for an update. Jude, please go ahead and tell us what's the latest from where you are.
All right, we are gradually coming to the concluding segment of the process that started almost 1 year ago. You know, earlier in the day, the people of Edo State came out in their numbers to vote for candidates of their choice. The outcome of that exercise will be finalized in this collation hall. Looking at this collation hall, there are two important seats by my left. One is labeled electoral officer. The other one is labeled local government collation officers. It is expected that these two officers from each of the 18 local government areas of Edo State will come to present the results of the election conducted in their local government areas for scrutiny and for the final announcement that will take place. Earlier, when we monitored this exercise, it was generally peaceful, and the BVAS machine performed optimally. There were no incidents or complaints about malfunctioning of BVAS, and the Edo people, in their usual show of love and in their usual spirit of sportsmanship, conducted themselves peacefully throughout the exercise that lasted from morning till 4 p.m. in the evening. Now we are coming to the climax of these whole efforts, of this whole exercise, and this collation hall is filled with a lot of people. Those that are not yet here are expected to come in any moment from now. The head of security agencies in the state are expected to occupy some seats here. INEC national commissioners, about 2 or 3 of them, also have seats stockpiled here to witness the final collection of results and the announcement of results that will come any moment from now. Although we are not very sure when the results from local government areas will start arriving in these collation centers, but one thing is sure, there are nearby local government areas, Oredo, Igor, and Ikpoboka, where collation are currently ongoing in the local government collation centers, and they will be the first to bring their results for scrutiny and announcement to the general public. So we're standing by to bring you the details of the collation and announcement of results that will bring all the efforts, all the activities to final conclusion, and there will be a gradual entrenchment of a new era in the Edo State Government House. We will now know the next occupant of Osadebe Avenue. Till then, let's watch and see how the event unfolds. Thank you.
Indeed, Jude, you captured it very well. That was a detailed update. But I'd like to know from the people you've spoken to at the collation center, what is their mood? I know anxiety is high, but what is the mood? You're on ground, so tell us.
All right, the people in these collation centers are expectant. They are eager to know the results that will come from the local government areas. You know, there were a lot of speculations and a lot of negative comments prior to this election. But today, at the polls, Edo people proved all those negative comments and speculations wrong. There was no violence like people had anticipated. The same way, the people in these collation centers are expecting that it will not take long for a winner to be announced in this election. Remember, it's just one election, the governorship election. So they believe that the task is not too much. So they don't expect to spend much time here before the final winner will be announced. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Jude. I'm sure we'll definitely connect with you. You know, NTA is open 24/7 to ensure that we give our viewers all the details as they unfold. Thank you, Jude, for that. Our correspondent Jude Abugu there in Benin. And don't forget the discussion we can file today will focus on the Edo election, matters arising, but definitely will feed you with information as they unfold. We turn to other issues. Nigerian youths are taking proactive approaches to civic engagement and inclusive governance through immersive and interactive experiences. Elizabeth Omori reports that this year's AU Assembly simulation in Abuja with focus on artificial intelligence is a prime example. As secondary school students within the FCT reenacted some sessions of the AU Assembly, highlighting key political decisions for regional growth.
Exercise a little more patience as it is necessary to enjoy a short-term pain now for an economic gain later.
Divine Anthony played President Tinubu at this simulation at the instance of Africa Vision 525 initiative. She and her peers are not just declaring but reinforcing statements of facts as they affect governance and Africans. Policies on regional peace, gender equity, education, health, and other current realities were raised through the perspective of the younger generation.
My government only wants industrial growth, but we listen to complaints of our people and we will find a way to locate the companies.
Before you say you want president of a country, you must do research about that. What do you know about that country? And we try to help you with the latest information about what's happening in that country.
This initiative reflects the proposition of Diallo Telly in 1965 to promote participation of African youths in the development of Pan-Africanism. Partners, including the NTA, reiterated the importance of youth engagement in decision-making, applying artificial intelligence to prefer solutions to contemporary challenges.
Wherever you find yourself, in the little way that you can, try to influence your environment and bring a positive impact.
IT should not be seen as an end, but it should be seen as a means to a desired end.
The AU Assembly simulation is in commemoration of Nigeria's 64th independence. Elizabeth Omori, NTA News.
The federal government has signed a memorandum of understanding with the original builders of Ajaokuta steel plant and members of the consortium for the rehabilitation, completion of the Ajaokuta steel plant and National Iron Ore Mining Company in Kogi State. Minister of Steel Development, Prince Shaibu Abubakar Audu, who signed on behalf of the federal government during the visit to Moscow, that's in Russia. The Russian consortium had earlier visited the steel plant in Ajaokuta and iron ore mining site at Itakpe, that was in August 2024, for preliminary inspections leading to the invitation for the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding. Prince Shaibu, who is driving Mr. President's mandate for the revitalization, completion and operation of Ajaokuta Steel Plant and National Iron Ore Mining Company, said, "This is a bold step towards creating a sustainable base for the industrialization of Nigeria's economy," noting that the revival of the steel sector will also reduce importation of steel products into Nigeria, which is estimated at over $4 billion annually, and will help save scarce foreign exchange. During the visit, the Nigerian delegation met with the Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade of the Russian Federation, Alexei Grozvedev. The Bureau of Public Service Reforms has released website and performance ranking for 2023-2024 by ministries, departments and agencies, with the Federal Road Safety Corps top on the list. Ayodeji Makinde reports.
Since 2017, Nigeria has widened its adoption of digital platforms as essential means of communication, service delivery and information dissemination. This policy document states the parameters for grading websites of MDAs and also identifies structure gaps, interactivity challenges, accessibility, security risks and poor capacity as grey areas which need improvement. Director General, Bureau of Public Reforms, joined by Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, attests to the thorough process of evaluation, which resulted in the emergence of FRSC as the best, ahead of Nigeria Content Development Management Board, while the trio of Nigeria Ports Authority, ICPC, and Nigeria Export Promotion Council tied for third.
All MDAs must have telephone numbers and email addresses that citizens can engage with them and make inquiries, access services.
The scoring criteria is published for everybody to see. There's no cutting corners, and we happen to be partners in the process and partners with the participants.
FRSC Corps Marshal Shehu Mohammed, elated, rededicated to providing leadership and discipline in a fast-changing world of technology and digital economy.
Personnel that are on the road are using body camera to do their enforcement, and that body camera is linked to our monitoring unit in the office, whereby we watch what they do online real time for monitoring and for supervision.
315 MDAs were subjected to website performance and ranking review this year. In Abuja, Ayodeji Makinde, NTA News.
The federal government has dispelled what it described as disinformation by an online news medium that the Goronyo Dam in Sokoto State is on the verge of collapse. The Minister of State for Water and Sanitation, Bello Mohammed Goronyo, refutes the claim during an on-the-spot assessment visit to the dam site. Dalhatu Abdullahi has details for us.
The recent online report about the imminent collapse of Goronyo Dam facility necessitated urgent assessment visit to the site by Minister of State, Water and Sanitation, Bello Mohammed Goronyo, who was received and was conducted around by Engineer Abdullahi Katsina. Engineer Katsina allayed the fear that the reservoir still requires more inflow, noting that it has the space of 200 million cubic meters to accommodate more water of the 942 million cubic meter capacity. Minister of State Water and Sanitation Bello Mohammed Goronyo stated that the ministry was disturbed by the fabricated report, hence its rush to to assess the situation.
The essence of my visit is to look at the dam and then assess the capacity of the dam and the issue of the dam.
While condemning the report as untrue, the minister challenged media practitioners, including bloggers, to be accurate in their reportage to avoid throwing people into unnecessary panic. In Sokoto, Dalhatu Abdullahi, NTA News.
In response to the recent devastating floods in Maiduguri, Borno State, two of President Bola Tinubu's children, Sheyi Tinubu and Yinka Tinubu, in collaboration with the Noella Foundation, their associates and some private sector partners, have mobilized significant humanitarian aid to support victims of the disaster. The team declared their support when they visited Governor Babagana Umar Zulum of Borno State and the Shehu of Borno. Following President Bola Tinubu's visit to Maiduguri earlier this week, where he called for private sector involvement in food relief efforts, Sheyi Tinubu and his associates within their private cycle to mobilize substantial resources and deliver food, non-food and medical supplies to thousands of internally displaced persons affected by the floods. Sheyi Tinubu said the contributions made are just the beginning, promising more support to Borno State as they recover from this tragedy. Governor Babagana Zulum expressed his gratitude for the support and assured that the resources would be distributed efficiently to meet the needs of the affected population. In addition to the material donations, 50 medical doctors within the network of friends were equally mobilized and are already on ground to provide additional support to the State Ministry of Health for the next few days under this initiative. Well, despite government's efforts to attend to the basic needs of the internally displaced persons at the various camps, life we hear remains a daily struggle for many of them, as captured by Angarju and Anagawa. Let's see that.
Habiba Musa and family members whose home collapsed and Mohammed Mele, whose residence is on the verge of collapsing, opened up on how life has been ever since the devastating flood.
If we leave the camp, we don't have a place to stay. Our home is in shutters.
Coming back home has been difficult. I feel like the world will fall over me and my family.
Business owners like Ibrahim Gaji, whose phone accessory business was affected, also struggle with psychological and financial impact of the disaster.
My business place was filled with water up to the ceiling, coupled with the fact that it is opposite the zoo, where crocodiles were at large. I lost a lot.
Everything was destroyed. The whole shop was like underwater, and here is a repair shop, so we literally lost everything in the shop.
Bosema says camps such as Bakassi provide essential aid including medical services, clean water, sanitation and food, raising concerns about the long-term sustainability of life in the camps. Since Governor Babagana Umar Zulum announced the end of wet and dry feeding program, many IDPs are uncertain whether the camps will remain open, as water levels have begun to recede in certain areas. Numerous donations and support have been provided throughout the crisis. In Maiduguri, Angarju, Anagawa, NTA News.
Well, and in Bauchi, a heavy downpour has for the second time in 10 days cut off another portion of Kanu, Maiduguri Federal Highway and Sawangari village of Katagum, local government area of Bauchi State. The situation has rendered commuters stranded, while the Federal Road Safety personnel were told that they were on ground to assist them. It could be recalled that both the federal and Bauchi state governments responded to ensure the first cut-off portion is more tolerable. Moving away from the floods to felicitation, President Bola Tinubu has sent warm wishes to his wife and First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, as she celebrates her 61st birthday. In a statement to her, the president expressed gratitude and love to the First Lady for being his rock, confident, greatest supporter, and the love of his life, showing unwavering strength, grace, and love to the president, his family, and the nation. As she continues to sustain the president through her wisdom and strength, President Bola Tinubu wished her boundless joy, peace and happiness, both now and in the years to come. Similarly, Vice President Kashim Shettima has also congratulated the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, on her 64th birthday. In a statement, the Vice President acknowledged the First Lady's contributions to national development, redefining the role of women in Nigerian politics and inspiring many to pursue their aspirations. The Vice President prayed for God to continue to bless the First Lady with the wisdom and strength to further her noble service to the country. Speaker also of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, felicitates with First Lady Senator Oluremi Tinubu as she marks her 64th birthday. In a statement, Speaker Abbas described Oluremi Tinubu as a dependable partner to President Bola Tinubu and a true mother of the nation as the First Lady. While noting her contributions to politics and governance in the country, the Speaker commends the First Lady's laudable initiatives as part of the Renewed Hope agenda. All right, we're going on a break, but don't forget, today is Edo election and we want to look at the matters arising. That's the focus. Please stay tuned. Thank you for staying tuned on Weekend File. And just before we bring in our guests, let's bring you this report. The nation's gaze is on Edo State as the electorate express their sovereign power to choose the next occupant of Osadebe Avenue. As the people await the final outcome of the voting exercise conducted earlier today, our correspondent Jude Abugu takes us through the over 1 year of activities and preparations leading up to the polls.
The process, which began the moment INEC published notice and issued timeline of activities for the election in 2023, progressed through the expression of interest, conduct of primaries, and emergence of candidates in February 2024, as well as the campaigns that followed.
Overall, 13 statutory activities were listed, beginning with the publication of the notice of election and ending with the election day.
Other activities preceding the governorship poll include continuous voters registration exercise to capture those that recently turned 18 and to give room for transfers and replacement of lost or damaged PVCs, engagement with various political stakeholders to ensure that the election is held under a peaceful atmosphere. This climaxed with the voting and counting of ballot papers taking place at 4,519 polling units in 192 wards across the 18 local government areas of the state.
What we have seen so far, the preparedness of INEC has been okay.
A lot of people envisaged that this election was going to be volatile. But what we saw today was that the election was relatively peaceful.
In a few hours, a winner will be announced after all the results are collated from polling units, wards, and local government areas. This is then put together by the electoral umpire, INEC. In Benin, Jude Abugu, NTA News.
There you have it. Well, the Edo State governorship election no doubt provided an opportunity for Edo populace to exercise their franchise by voting for their candidates of choice. Early enough, eligible voters lined up at each of the polling units in the 18 local government areas, defying the rain in some areas to undergo accreditation prior to actual voting up to the period of sorting and counting of results. Voters and election observers commended the electoral umpire for largely remaining neutral during the process.
Organized. I believe that was done by God. Then, secondly, I would have to thank INEC for this peaceful exercise. At least this is one of the most freest elections so far I've witnessed here.
I came here this morning to cast my votes. Everywhere is orderly, and the race of showers is making everywhere very calm. People are voting. No rancor, no bickering.
This is my first time being able to cast my vote, and I really feel good about it. Being able to support like show our interest in voting for the first time.
I've gone around before working out with you, and everybody is coming out to vote well. So everywhere is good.
No major crisis anywhere. No major crisis anywhere. But of course, we've made arrests. Overnight, we carried out a raid that was intelligence-driven.
As one of the off-cycle polls in the country, security agents in the country provided adequate coverage during the exercise. All right, let's bring in our guests. We have with us in the studio Mr. Nick Dazang, former Director of Voter Education and Publicity, INEC. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Dazang.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. We also have joining us via Zoom from Benin is Mr. Ezenwa Nwago, Chairman, Partners for Electoral Reform. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Nwago. Can you hear me, Mr. Nwago? Because I'd like to begin with you.
Can hear you. I can hear you very well.
Oh, fantastic. I'm sure you followed, events that has played out all day, and you're part of those waiting, for collation, results from the different wards to start trickling in at the collation center, because that's the final stage everyone is waiting for. But I'd just like to hear your perspective based on what has played out today. How would you judge it?
Well, I like to do some kind of stakeholder grading. So sitting at the topmost pyramid of the electoral stakeholdership will be the Independent National Electoral Commission that is empowered by the Constitution to conduct these elections. And realizing that this is a court-ordered election that is holding out of the cycle of elections that held in 2023, I would say that they have discharged their job creditably. The downside that may have been recorded in terms of the late opening of polls, you can, of course, situate that challenge to the other partners who probably did not fill in their own gap as quickly as they should. So in terms of number, in many places, we had electoral officials in good number performing their responsibilities, especially the young men and women from the National Youth Service Corps who have continued to make the sacrifice that is required to consolidate this democracy. And they also shone so brightly again in Edo State in the manner in which they have performed their responsibility. So for INEC, for me, is an above average performance. And I would be happy to see that, if you like, replaced in a much improved manner in Ondo State. For the security agencies, the reports we have is that they were spread in 95% of the polling units in the state. Security provisioning was excellent, and as you know, thugs who had worked to see where to disrupt the process were prevented by intelligence gathering. And then for the voters, their resilience is impressive. They braved the weather, the early morning rain, to come out and exercise their franchise. But the politicians and their candidates have been completely absent from conversations around reform by the obscene, if you like, obscene use of money that played in quite a lot of polling areas in the states, buying and bribing voters with as much as 10,000 in some places and even higher in many other places. So I think that overall, the prediction was that it was going to be violent because of the rhetoric, the rhetoric that we saw, the insulting vibes that came through the campaign. But eventually today, we saw a relatively peaceful election, and that is something that the people of Edo State can beat their tongue chests about, if you like.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Nwagu. I'll definitely get back to you, but I'd like to get the thoughts of Mr. Dazang here. Mr. Dazang, of course, you followed all the proceedings that happened today, and a lot of people have said, well, stakeholders have said the election has been peaceful. We've seen rather the keen interest Edo people have shown today that they're ready and willing to ensure that their votes count. What does this say to you, especially if we look at a democratic nation like Nigeria and what we've witnessed today in Edo State?
I think what this says eloquently is that Nigerians are desirous about the democracy project. They are ready to conduct themselves peacefully if the environment is provided, as it was provided today, particularly by the security agencies. If you look at the rhetoric that preceded the conduct of this election, you would have thought that there would be violence in today's election, but there was practically none. The elections took place in a peaceful atmosphere, and in spite of the rains, the good citizens of Edo State defied it. Some who could not turn out much earlier in the day came back. They came, and thankfully the commission also provided the opportunity for them to vote by extending the voting hours to take care of those who could not come out because of the rains, and for polling units that could not open in time. I think that helped in making sure that people were not disenfranchised. Unfortunately, and in spite of these successes, particularly on the part of the election management body, that is INEC, and the security agencies, in the kind of professional manner they comported themselves. Sadly, there were incidents such as widespread vote buying, which was reported by a number of the civil society organizations that observed the conduct of the elections. I followed the reports and statements issued by CDD and Yaga Africa, which suggested that at least two of the major political parties in the contest deployed money to buy votes. But by and large, I think everything went well. As at 8:30, my findings show that more than 93% of the results, the polling unit results, had been uploaded on the INEC elections viewing portal. So by this time, I'm certain it would have crossed the 100% threshold.
Okay.
And if that is the case, it also means that collation will be proceeding apace, perhaps beyond even the ward level in some instances.
Okay.
And the implication also is that we are likely to get the results returned or announced perhaps before 12 noon tomorrow.
Hopefully, everybody's anticipating, and this vote buying has been on the lips of every observer. So we'll visit that just after the break. Please stay tuned. Thank you for staying tuned to the dial. Mr. Nwagu, I'd like to connect with you now. Earlier you talked about the amount being given, 10,000 thereabout, talking about vote buying. We're seeing innovative means of this vote buying. But thankfully, in the morning, we got reports that EFC made some arrests to suspected vote buyers, Unit 7, Ward 4 in Ego, local government area. But I'd like to know, from your perspective, looking at this biggest threat to our election in Nigeria, is it a feel of do-or-die syndrome, from these political stakeholders? Is it something you foresee that in the near future we will not revisit in our electoral process? Do you foresee that?
Well, we will have to deal with it. There are those who are providing comfort for those who commit crimes. The voter inducement, especially the brazen and obscene use of cash around the voting area, is a crime under the Electoral Act. And so when people explain it away and say the citizens have been pauperized, and so they, to the point where they have to collect cash to vote, and all of that. I know there are bigger, voter inducements that happen outside the precincts of the vote, but this brazen use of cash, we need to deal with it. And one of the ways to deal with it will be to not just this arrest that we have seen EFCC make. That has been made in Osun. There were arrests in Ekiti. It's important that there is a naming and shaming, and there is important that we put it on the front burner. Those who have been arrested, what is the status of the case right now? Are they being prosecuted? If they are being prosecuted, have they been convicted? If they are convicted, who are they? Because people get worried of just hearing that people have been arrested, and then immediately after election, it goes into the back burners. For me, it's important that we understand that people diminish their citizenship when they sell their votes, and they, in my view, they also activate the process of leadership failure, if you like. When these transactional relationships happen between those who want to lead and the led, then the ability of the led to hold government accountable is weakened. So we need to continue advocacy. We need to continue voter education around that in a more direct way, in a way that brings it out as crime. And because sometimes I even hear people say, oh, collect their money and vote your conscience. Once there is a transactional relationship, your conscience has been bought. And there is no way we will know whether you voted your conscience when you have been paid to vote. So for me, it's to increase voter education and also to pressure government. After this election, it's important that government delivers for a majority of the citizens. Livelihood of citizens need to be improved upon. The reason for all of this effort, people going into the rain and casting their votes, has to come in terms of how government begins to work for them. Many people are losing confidence because of the way and manner those who have appropriated leadership have used it, and they have not used for the betterment of majority of the citizens. And that is why perhaps sometimes you see people explaining these things away. But it diminishes us as a people that we have to take cash to be able to vote for those who will lead us.
Indeed, Mr. Nwagu, and sometimes these people who allow their conscience to be bought forget that a few years down the line, they come back seeking for accountability and transparency. Mr. Dazang, a lot has been said about the electoral umpire, about their conduct and all of that. Good news, we didn't get any news of ad hoc staff compromising in any way. Well, we didn't get that report. So, but in terms of support, for the INEC, to do better and to ensure that their services are more effective. Talking now, you also mentioned late arrival of some electoral materials at the start. What kind of support, does INEC really need, going forward?
Well, I think, number one, INEC has to sustain the momentum that it has begun in this particular election. It needs to sustain the training and retraining and refresher training of ad hoc staff as it did in this election. It should not rest on its hours. Even as it sustains this momentum, it needs the continuous support of the security agencies. They need to continue to carry on professionally, discharging their duties with neutrality, with impartiality, as demanded by law. And other stakeholders too need to play their parts. Civil society, the media need to report what is happening in the political space and what is happening during the conduct of elections, as exemplified by some of the NGOs that I had mentioned, who reported widespread instances of voter buying and selling and late arrival of election materials. It is these reports that hold particularly the EMB and the security agencies to account.
Okay.
They hold their feet to the fire, and I believe also that they bring out the good things that have happened. They also bring out the negative ones, so that we learn lessons.
Indeed.
And then we factor those lessons in the conduct of subsequent elections with a view to conducting very palliative elections.
Okay, I'll get Mr. Nwagu's final thoughts very briefly, but a report just came in now that I'd like to share. The Commission's attention has been drawn to an allegation of wrong figures entered into polling unit result sheets in the ongoing Edo State governorship election. Now, the Commission is saying that this is the second complaint they have received out of the 4,519 polling units used for the election. The Commission states that it will immediately investigate matters and will deal with any proven infraction. Mr. Nwagu, I'd like to get your final thoughts. Whatever the outcome of this result turns out, what do you expect? What advice would you give to those who may have fallen out of the race, and advice to whoever emerges winner? And following this report we're just getting from INEC, people will always do mischief in elections like this.
Well, it's a competitive enterprise, and the way people approach competition differs. That's why you have a regulator. That's why you have a referee. The referee must remain neutral, must remain impartial, must wield the big stick when it has to do so. And in this particular case, we are seeing INEC being proactive, responsive, and not just reacting. And that's key. As we approach Ondo, every election comes with its own dynamics. We don't want a dim down into what has happened in Edo. There has to be much more coordination. The transport vendors need to come into a meeting. The security agents need to come into a much more robust engagement in terms of how to deal with the perennial logistic challenges that we continue to face. Ondo is much more riverine than Edo State, and so we will need to, topographically, it's going to be a bigger challenge. INEC has to brace up to it, and we have just less than a month to engage Ondo. And for me, the Edo election could be done and dusted. Those who have won, as we always say, should be magnanimous in victory, and those who have tried should accept it as part of what a game is, that when you lose in a competition, there's another opportunity to try. And that's how democracy survives.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ezenwa Nwagu. He's the chairman, Partners for Electoral Reform. We do appreciate your contribution on Weekend File. Thank you, and well done to the good job you're doing observing this election. Keenly, well done.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. Mr. Nick Dazang, because of time, we may not get your final thoughts, but we're putting our fingers crossed. Of course, Collation Center, NTA, will definitely keep you updated, talking to the viewers now. But let's take a break. We'll be back shortly. Good to know you're there. And let's just quickly delve to the world of sports. Francisca is set to feed us with the latest. Francisca, always good to see you. Thank you so much, Francisca. And this is where we call it a night on Weekend File. But don't forget, at the top of the hour, Edo Decide Studio will open for live updates on what's happening. You know, everyone is at a collation center waiting, for the process to begin. Ayo Deji Makinde, my colleague, will take up the baton. From me, it's good night. I'm Ruth Aguele.